Hey, thanks very much for checking out my video. If you've been suffering from information overload, I think the model that I outlined in this video is going to clear up a lot of things for you. It's what I call my micro-niche monetization model, and it's what I've used to roll out information products, and it's my full marketing system, basically, kind of at a high level. So again, take a look at the video and read the blog post below if you prefer to read, and let me know what your comments are or questions. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so in this presentation I'm going to cover a few things. First of all, I'll quickly go through what a micro-niche is. Then I'll give you some examples of markets, niches, and micro-niches. And then I'll take you through my micro-niche monetization model. And as I said, if you've been struggling with information overload and if you're just overwhelmed, which is totally understandable, then this model should give you kind of a high-level view of the way that I've made money online and the way that an online business can work. And I think it's just a good bird's eye view of how the whole process works, and it should clear some things up for you. So, okay, so what is a micro niche? I actually looked around for a definition for this, and I really couldn't find anything, so I actually coined my own definition. And what I think a micro niche is it's basically a slice of a market in which a relatively small group of people have very similar needs. And I'll give you some examples of it in a second. But I just want to emphasize here, relatively small group, that could mean millions of people. I use the word relatively for a reason. I mean relative to a huge macro market like weight loss, for example, where there's hundreds of millions of people around the world who are looking for solutions. A micro niche could actually have 5 million, 10 million people, for example. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So again, a slice of a market in which a relatively small group of people have very similar needs. All right, so you can think of it as a pie, actually, and here's a great graphic of a money pie, pretty appropriate, I think. So again, you can think of a market as a large pie, and then you can think of niches within that market as slices of the pie, and micro niches you can think of as slices of the slices, so you know, a thin sliver of a giant pie. Okay, so here are examples of what I call markets. And a market is basically a big group of buyers and sellers, but there's three evergreen markets that we talk about usually in internet marketing: health, wealth, and love. Health is pretty straightforward. You know, people have problems with diseases or trying to improve their health or physical fitness, that sort of thing. Wealth has to do with making money, with career advancement and that sort of thing. And then love has to do with dating and whatnot. And I'll give you some examples right now. So here are some niches within those three evergreen markets. So as I said, health could be specific diseases like heart disease or high blood pressure, you know, health conditions like that. It could be weight loss. So those are examples of niches within the health market. Within the wealth market, you could be talking about things like investing, the investing niche, the make money online niche, or career advancement niche. And then within the love market, there are niches like dating, relationship advice, divorce advice, and things like that. And if you're familiar with the ClickBank marketplace as one example, you've seen products that get into a lot of these niches. So as we go down a little bit further, as we niche it down, as I say, if you're looking within the health market and the weight loss niche, a smaller niche could be the paleo diet, for example, or the raw food diet. Within the wealth market and the investing niche, you could be looking at the penny stock investing niche or day trading. And I'll give you examples of even tighter niches in a second. And then finally, in the love market and the dating niche, you could be looking at Christian dating, Latino dating, that sort of thing. I mean, there's tons of different segments of the dating niche. Okay, so here are examples of what I would consider micro niches within there, and there are millions of these. I mean, literally millions of different micro niches out there, and including online that I've personally seen many. So if you niche down even further, you can get into, for example, within the health market and the weight loss niche, you could get into raw food diets for women. Within the wealth market and the investment niche, you could be looking at something like day trading for advanced investors. So for example, to make that even more specific, you could start a program if you have the experience or if you have access to people who are experienced or experts. You could start a program teaching millionaires how to day trade, for example, or high net worth individuals how to day trade. Another example within the love market and the dating niche could be Latino dating in New York City. And this could be online as well. I mean, this is not just an offline concept. You could have a website that specifically targets, for example, Latino women living in New York City and providing them with tips on how to find a man and that sort of thing. And what's great about that is that because you're focusing on a geographic area, a local area, you can give specific offline kinds of advice or places to go or that sort of thing. And New York City obviously is a big enough city where you would have a fairly large market there. So again, these are examples of micro niches. And when I say, micro niche is a relatively small group of people, again, we can be talking about millions of people. Raw food diet for women, because online you have a global reach. You could be talking about millions of people, millions of women looking for raw food diet advice. Okay, the same thing with the other ones, with the exception of Latino dating in New York City. That's obviously more of a thousands of kind of people rather than millions. Okay, so let's go over to my micro niche monetization model. So I think I've sufficiently explained what a micro niche is. What I'm going to do now is, and you can download this PDF from the blog post below. I'm going to go through the model that I've used to make quite a bit of money online through my own information products. It's basically my entire marketing kind of system. So if you just look at the red bubbles here first, I'll go through those quickly and then I'll take you through the whole model. So the first step in this is to understand your passions and your strengths. And I should emphasize one thing here. A lot of people who are advising others on how to make money online or that sort of thing, they focus on the passions. That's very important. I believe it's very important. But nobody talks about your strengths. And in my experience of being 7 years online, you really need to understand what your passions and your strengths are. Passions, obviously, because you want to have an interest in something, whether it's the topic of your online business or some aspect of the operations of your business. And by that I mean, do you love the marketing aspect of things? Do you love building websites? Do you love SEO or those sorts of things? But you also need to understand your strengths, because what I find with a lot of people who come to me for advice is they are struggling working on things that they are very weak in, that they both have no interest in doing, and they are bad at. So in my case, that would be website development. I know my way around WordPress, but when it comes to HTML and designing and all the nuts and bolts behind a website, I not only am not interested in those things, but I am terrible at it. And I have spent many hours messing around with WordPress websites and trying to get images to align properly and blah and all those sorts of things. And it was a total waste of my time, because I could have hired somebody for 10 bucks from a freelance website to do that work, and I should have focused on my strengths. So there are a number of ways of identifying your passions and your strengths. Your passions, obviously, within Niche Sherpa, I have got a whole list of things to go through, but just a couple of things. If you think about the sections of the newspaper that you read, or the hobbies that you have, or things that you gravitate towards when you have free time, what are those sorts of things that you do? Because that's where your passions are. Strengths, that's a little more difficult to find out, because you can't objectively identify that yourself necessarily. So one thing I recommend is you can ask your friends and family, and there's a great exercise where you can just send out an email or that sort of thing to your friends and family and simply ask them, what do you think I'm good at? Simply ask them that one question. If you send that out to 10 or 20 people, you'll start to see themes emerge. Okay, so that's understanding your passions and strengths. It's very important to do that kind of self-assessment inventory before you get started, even if you just take an hour or two to do it. So the second thing is finding a profitable niche. And actually, let me just go through. I realized I was supposed to go through this at a high level first and then get into it. So we've covered number one, understand your passions and strengths. Number two is finding a profitable niche. Number three, then you figure out your offers. Number four, you launch your website. Then you get what I call external traffic, and then you drive what I call internal traffic, and I'll explain that. And then you do conversion optimization once everything is set up. Okay, so again, let's start from here. So I've already covered understanding your passions and strengths. Once you've done that, then you want to go in and find a profitable niche, and as you probably know, my Niche Sherpa course covers that step by step, but here are the kind of the broad stroke steps. First thing that you do is you choose a handful of test niches, okay? And that's just a brainstorming exercise where you kind of go through and you figure out, okay, which niches should I be focusing on based on my passions and my strengths. At this point, you're not looking at profitability. You're only looking at niches that appeal to you based, again, on your passions, interests, and your strengths. The second thing you do is you fill your problems bucket. Once you've identified a handful of niches, you have to go through and do the appropriate research to find out what are the problems that people are facing in each of those niches. Okay, so all you're doing is you're trying to find the range of problems that people are having in those niches. Then the third thing that you do is you zero in on the most profitable problems, and this is when you're kind of like filtering in or narrowing down on the problems. You want to find the problems where you're going to have the highest chance of being profitable straight out of the gate. And I did this in a number of my markets, including in one of my markets where I did the research. I actually did online surveys, and I launched a product, and in the first day I had about 6 sales. Actually, the first night I had 6 sales. And the reason that it sold so well was because I identified exactly what people were having pain with, extreme pain, and could not find a solution to easily online. And when I presented it, they just gobbled it up, basically. So anyway, the needs test, that's an acronym, and so it's NEEEDS. The N stands for needs, and that means are the needs based on a strong emotional or physical desire for a solution. So in my experience, that's the #1 indicator of whether or not a problem is going to be profitable when you present a solution. People must have a strong physical or emotional desire for a solution. They have to be staying up awake at night thinking about this, and it should just be a big pain for them, and they'll be willing to pay to have it solved. The first E is, are enough people searching for a solution online? So you've got to have volume online. Because if you come up with a great solution for a desperate problem, but nobody's searching for it online, well, then you don't have an audience. The second E is it an evergreen niche? So you want to focus on problems in niches that are evergreen. In other words, that are going to be around 5 or 10 years from now. You don't want to go for a problem that's a flash in the pan, that's like a temporary problem that people have right now, because that won't lead to a sustainable business. The third E is, are there easily available solutions online? And obviously, you don't want there to be a lot of easily available solutions online. You want to go for low competition. The D is the problem in a desperate macro niche? And again, I just covered the health, wealth, and love. Those are what I consider to be the 3 desperate macro niches. And the S is, can the solution that you could provide make money or save money for people? And I should just say that the last 2 of these needs, a desperate macro niche or can the solutions make money or save money, those are not necessary in my experience. The first 4 are. But if your problems do not fall into one of the desperate macro niches, health, wealth, or love, or if it's not a solution that will make money or save money for people, that's not a deal breaker. But the first 4 that I just covered, the NEEE, the NEEE, N and 3 E's, those are absolutely necessary. Okay, and then the last thing you do then, once you've filtered out the most profitable or filtered in the most profitable problems, then you have to dive deep to understand those problems deeply, and I use what I call either the private investigator or the survey researcher approach. This might seem like overkill to do this much research, but once you have such a deep understanding of the problems facing your niche audience or audiences, you will know them so well that you will know people better than they know themselves, basically. And when you do that, you'll not only know what problems they're willing to pay for and are desperate to solve, but you'll also know the language that they use when they're describing their problems. And when you can mimic back that language to people, they will feel that you are speaking directly to them, and they'll be more likely to trust you and buy from you. Okay, so that's the second step in the micro niche monetization model, find a profitable niche. Now, number 3, once you've found your profitable niche or a handful of niches that you want to test out, you figure out your offers. And there's 4 basic kinds of offers that I've identified. I've used the first 3 extensively, the last one not so much, but I'll describe that. So the first thing is affiliate products. We all know what affiliate products are, or you probably do. I've specialized in promoting ClickBank affiliate products as well as my own. And that leads me to the second one, your own products. As far as I'm concerned, the best step, if you don't want to start with your own products, is to start promoting affiliate products in the niche that you're focused on. that you want to build a business in. And then once you get some success selling affiliate products, you quickly go in and create your own products. And there's a simple reason for that. When you have your own products to promote, you have a lot more control over every aspect of your business. You can control the components of the product, you can control the pricing, you can control the sales pages, you control everything. So you have, not only can you make a lot more money because you keep all the money, you don't have to pay, you don't have to give anything to a vendor, but you also can increase sales by changing aspects of your products. And again, I focus a lot on info products, or almost exclusively on info products, but you can also get into services, coaching, and things like that as your own products. The third kind of offer is AdSense, or ads on your website. So AdSense is Google's advertising program for website owners. You put a little piece of code from Google on your website, and they start running ads, serving ads on your website based on their interpretation of the content on your website. AdSense, I've made a lot of money through AdSense as well. Not as much recently because I haven't been focused on that, but in early days it was thousands of dollars a month from my websites. And that is truly passive income, because I have one site right now that I haven't touched for 3 years, and it still makes me up to $500 a month from that one website just in AdSense, and I haven't touched it in 3 years. It's amazing. And the fourth kind of offer is lead generation. So again, I haven't done much of this, but this would be, for example, if you're getting people to come to your website, you're capturing their personal information like email address, telephone number, that sort of thing, and you're selling that information to a service provider who can help those people. So it might be, for example, if you're running a travel website, and your website is all about taking a vacation to Bali, for example, and travel companies who are willing to pay to get those leads. So people come to your website for information on Bali, they enter their email address and phone number, that sort of thing, and then you sell that information. Once you've made it known to the people who are opting in, of course, you sell that information to a travel company that specializes in Bali vacations, for example. Okay, so that's another way. So those are your offers that you have to figure out. Once you've found your profitable niche, you figure out what kind of offers you're going to offer to your niche audience. Then you launch your website. Okay, here. There are 4 things to look at, generally speaking, when you're launching your website. The very first thing is, obviously, you want to choose a layout that sells. And that's very important because, I get emails from people all the time saying, can you look at my website and tell me, I'm not making any sales. And as soon as I look at their website, 5 to 10 things jump out at me straight away. Just basic things. The layout of the site, the fact that they don't have an email capture form on the site, they don't have an about page, or the about page does not have a picture of them along with some personal information, so that when people go to the site, they can look at the about page and they can gain some trust. Or the site does not look personal, it looks too corporate, it looks kind of spammy, that sort of thing. There's just lots of things. So you have to choose a layout that sells, that gains trust in your visitors and can lead to sales. Then you set up your website. I set up all my websites in WordPress. It's very popular, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at that as well. You probably are. Okay, then you create the content for your sites. Okay, and there's an art and science to that as well. You want to create content that obviously will get organic traffic to your site, but that will also provide useful information to visitors, but not enough that people are not going to want to buy what you're selling. Okay, and then you set up your sales funnel once you've done that. And the sales funnel is, that could be a course unto itself, but basically what a sales funnel is, it's every step that you take people through to get them to buy from you ultimately. So, in my case and a lot of other cases, that means putting an email opt-in form on your website, and then having an autoresponder sequence in which you provide people with very useful information that also builds trust and credibility, and then making sales pitches to people or offering them your products, which will solve their solutions. Okay, and that involves setting up landing pages and everything else. So that's a sales funnel. So that's launching your website. And then the next thing you want to do is start getting what I call external traffic. So I differentiate between external traffic and internal traffic. External traffic is traffic that comes from outside of your website. Those are fresh visitors. So you can get that through basically 6 different ways. You can get it through affiliates, sending traffic to your site, through paid traffic, and the classic case of that is Google AdWords, and there's also Bing ads, both of which I have a lot of experience with. Organic traffic is traffic that you get from the search engines that you don't pay for. Some people call that free traffic. I think that's actually a misnomer, because it's not free at all if you value your time, because it takes a lot of time to try to get organic traffic. Then there's social traffic, so free social traffic coming from like Facebook and Twitter and those social media websites. Email drops, which is when you buy a listing in an email, or you buy an entire email, which is called a solo drop, and that gets people to your website. So you buy that from other websites that have big lists of email subscribers. And then there's referral traffic, and that you get through doing things like putting articles on article distribution or article directories, or a favorite one of mine, guest blogging. That's a very effective technique to get traffic to your site, and very warm, trustworthy traffic or trusting traffic. All right, so that's getting external traffic. The next thing is driving internal traffic. And by internal traffic, what I mean is people who have already opted into your website, who have already signed up for your email to your email list. What you are doing is you're getting them to go back to your website through your emails to them. And you can do that through two ways, either through an autoresponder sequence. And an autoresponder sequence is simply just basically a sequence or a chain of automatic emails that go out and that you set up through an email marketing service like Aweber or that sort of thing. And they're beautiful. They work very well. Or through broadcast messages, which are messages that you send out manually once in a while to your email subscribers. So that's a great way of driving internal traffic and of driving sales. And from my own experience, email, getting people onto my email list is the #1 way of driving sales and of building trust. It works really well. It has for years, and it will continue to do so for years, in my opinion. And the last thing you do, once you set up all of that, you basically get your whole system set up, you do what's called conversion optimization. And conversion optimization basically means taking what is working for you right now and making it better. So for example, if you're getting 10% of people who visit your website to opt into your email list, then you want to get that up to 15 or 20%, and that would be optimizing that process, optimizing the conversion rate of your email, for example. Or it might be increasing the sales rate on your sales page. All of that falls under the category of conversion optimization, but you start doing that only once you've got your whole system set up and you've got traffic coming in and everything else. And that's when you take that kind of big picture view of things and you start optimizing. Okay, so that's it. That is my micro niche monetization model in a nutshell, sort of a high level. You can see this as one way, a very effective way of making money online and setting up an online business. That's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say, but if you have any questions or comments, please do leave them in the comments below. Thanks very much.